special show this week. This week, we're not going to just sit here in the studio. We're going to go into the bayou, into the Amazon. We're going to go to Africa near a waterfall. We're gonna check out the entire world because we have the host of Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, Peter Gros, on the show. So be sure to check it out. Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Men Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
Well, this is a big thrill today for me, talking to the host of Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Welcome to the show, Peter. How are you?
I am well. Very nice to talk to you.
You know, for Americans of a certain age, Wild Kingdom is part of our lives. It debuted the year I was born, in 1963. So it literally has been around my entire life. And I remember watching it on Sunday nights, the whole family, when I was a kid. It was because one of those shows that we could watch together as a family and wonder if Jim Fowler was going to be eaten by a lion this week. And spoiler alert, he never was. But what years were the original show on?
Well, as you mentioned, the original show started in 63,
Yeah.
Ran until mid-'80s, and then did many other things like Children's Environmental Trusts and visits and sending me to other countries to report on environmental issues, took 39 seventh graders to the rainforest to do a cross-cultural exchange in Iquitos, Peru. Mutual of Omaha has always been involved with conservation and sharing the message of conservation in many formats, a lot more ways than people are aware of. When the show started up again, this is our third season now. It's it's a continuum of what they started in the 60s. The goal is to still tell stories of the importance of conservation, going to remote locations. We were recently for season 3 finished. We were in Australia. We were in Canada, we were in Mexico, we were in Puerto Rico, and we get to tell stories that were originally told in the first show. For instance, the bald eagle and the black-footed ferret and wolves were then, that show focused on the fact that they were on the brink of extinction. Now, the theme for many of our shows is successful conservation stories, the animals that are coming off the endangered species list, how well some of them are doing. We're still addressing the fact that we have problems, but I think it's important that we also share we had serious problems in the past and we solved them, and we will solve the problems for wildlife in the future.
I love that. I hate to admit this, but I was probably in my 20s before I realized that Mutual of Omaha was an insurance company and not like some wildlife preserve in Nebraska somewhere, because that's how associated it is with this show, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. How did you get involved in this whole animal world in the first place? Your background, I know a little bit about it, but can you tell us how you transformed from that person who was just interested into wildlife into somebody who was actually part of this iconic show?
Yeah, it was interesting to hear your early comment about, I've had people approach me and ask that,
Yeah, I bet.
about Wild Kingdom, and it's just such a perfect synergy because Mutual of Omaha has been in the business of protecting people for 100 years, and they, since the 60s, been protecting wildlife in the natural world. So I got started early on as designing free-roaming animal displays for parks and zoos, and met Jim Fowler. And at the time, Mr. Perkins was getting ready to retire. And Jim explained to me, he said, we're not looking for an actor. We're looking for someone with conservation and wildlife experience. And would I be interested? And I thought for about 3 seconds and said, I believe I've just been offered the best job in the world, and said, yes, I'd very much like to talk to you.
Replacing Marlon Perkins, that's like replacing Mr. Rogers. That's his neighborhood. That must have been a lot of pressure for you.
Oh, there is no ever replacing Marlon Perkins or Jim Fowler.
Yeah.
They were such experts, and wherever they traveled around the globe, they were just always interested in the people and their culture and the wildlife where they were visiting. And I remember Jim and Marlon talking to me about we come to these countries to tell the story about conservation and wildlife, but we are guests in that country. And I'll never forget, both Jim and Marlon were mentors for me. And as I worked with Jim over the years, he taught me so much about how to behave around animals actually in the wild. And one of my very first shows, I'll never forget, we were going to Grand Charnier, Louisiana, to do research on alligators. And on the way, he was mentioning there's really nothing to it, just follow my lead. And when we got there, he started unpacking what looked like a miner's lamp. And I said, "What's this for, Jim?" And he went, "Well, when you film them at night. You go out on a boat and you silently drift along the water and shine a light, and their eyes light up and reflect it. And you quietly drift up next to them and reach over the back and then pull them in the boat and then tag them and release them."
Nothing to it.
Nothing to it. So, yeah, it had a tremendous learning curve, and I'm just honored to be able to continue the legacy of Mutual of Omaha educating people through their wildlife show.
I met Jim Fowler once back in my radio days, and he not only could handle himself around animals, but he could also handle himself around the animals in the media. He was a gentleman. It was great meeting him. And I want to say this to you, Peter, and please don't take this personally, but you're really making us old guys look bad. I'm not young anymore. You, sir, you're scuba diving, you're hiking, you're traveling the world, you're avoiding getting eaten by lions. You are, doing things that make all of us old guys look bad. Do you have a secret to staying young, or is just doing this itself the secret?
I think doing it certainly contributes to it. I think staying active is important. Remain busy, eat well, exercise, all the basic important things are helpful. But I am fortunate that I do have a job that does keep me very busy. It wasn't that long ago that we were in Oregon, and one of our stories is talking about the recovery of the coho salmon and how that relates to the resident populations of killer whales, which would be in Series 3. Talking about having to stay in shape, one of our stories is about the elusive wolverine, because I was in the Cascade Mountains in a snowstorm and skiing to see them. And I love to ski, and I thought this will be great. But they explained to me you'll be skiing uphill for 2 miles to check a wildlife camera to see if we have pictures of a wolverine. So
wow.
After a trek to the top of the mountain, we checked the cameras, and other wildlife had visited, but no wolverines. But
how do you ski uphill? You like sideways?
There are non-skid devices that hook on the bottom of the ski that give you traction.
Unbelievable.
And then, of course, the highlight is when you're at the top, you take that off and make stick that in your backpack and make fresh tracks coming back down the mountain. But it's so many great opportunities. One of our shows deals with bighorn sheep that live in the mountains and the deserts of Southern California. One of the shows took us to Mexico, to flamingos who are now migrating all the way back to Florida where they used to be. So many great stories from Australia with kangaroos and wallabies and koalas, and the season 3 is just packed with wildlife with great stories that I hope people enjoy seeing on weekend mornings on NBC.
So just listening to some of these stories, it sounds like you get to do just about everything. But have there been any adventures that you've been on for this show that have gotten to the point where you're like, all right, this might be going a bit too far?
We really research things well. Not recently. I do love to scuba dive, as you mentioned, and I was at the Barrier Reef and was able to contribute in lab-grown sections of reef, dive down and reattach them. We did the same thing in Puerto
Wow.
Rico. We had quite a current and some wind come up while we were there, and I found myself sort of bracing myself, hanging on to the anchor line while I was working myself back to the surface, which is always exciting. But
Wow.
nothing like early shows where you may have been doing a show on Lake Kariba, and part of that show was rafting the Zambezi River, which was class 5 and above, and just below Victoria Falls. And I remember being dumped out of the raft and then swimming to the shore and having one of our guides casually say to me, Mr. Gross, you should swim back to the shore more quickly because in the eddies there is where the crocodiles lay and wait for
Oh
their
my
food.
God.
So those are memories of exciting moments. But
Didn't you
basically,
also survive an avalanche once? Was there, am I remembering that incorrectly? Yeah.
not
Okay.
that's not me. There are
No,
probably there are.
something on
I
the
have
show.
trained. I have taken avalanche training.
Oh, of course.
So you know what to do to set off a transponder where somebody can find you and how to get your arms up to protect yourself. But I'm happy to report that has not happened. Safety is always first and foremost on our shows. We really prepare for things. But most importantly, we get to tell the story of wildlife and their environment, how they're doing, and what we can do as humans to help save them.
Are there any animals that you have been unable to track down? I mean, you were mentioning you couldn't find the wolverines. Are there? I mean, is it? I guess that's not a show if you
I,
can't find them. But
I would still like to see a Wolverine in the wild, and
okay,
that's on my list. One and all that was on my list that I had not seen were whale sharks. And
oh,
this was on my bucket list. We went to the Yucatan Peninsula and was able to go out and snorkel. And in the distance was a huge feeding whale shark the size of a school bus that decided
wow,
to swim towards me with this 4 foot wide yawning mouth while it was feeding. And this passed by me very close, very slowly. And I just stood there and held my breath and was in awe that I happened to be there in that location. And it was a bit of a dream come true for me.
wow. So you do the show with Dr. Ray Wynn Grant. Um, Tell us about her and how the two of you got together for this show.
Well, she's tremendous to work with. She's a wildlife ecologist and brings so much to the show and is so knowledgeable that we started right out the very first show in the desert of California, a very hot day, doing a successful story about reintroduction of tortoises. Since then, we've traveled to many parts of the world and many continents, and we both come from different backgrounds, so we really complement each other and our knowledge of wildlife with the research she's done and my history with wildlife behavior. So it's just a delight to work with. We enjoy our time spent together working. We have a great time telling the conservation stories together, and she's such an addition to the show. I just can't say enough about her.
So, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom has been part of America my entire life now, 62 years. It's still a part of America. People can see you and Dr. Ray on Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom protecting the wild. Tell us where and when they can see it and how they can follow you and the show.
Well, they can certainly go to wildkingdom.com. It's also streaming, or go to NBC, which is where we've kind of gone full circle, which it was
Yeah.
originally. NBC, the time slot of The More You Know on weekends morning. And series 3 drops this coming Saturday on the 4th. So, and then we've already started filming season 4. So lots of exciting science-based wildlife shows, which Dr. Ray and I are looking forward to sharing with our audiences, which, by the way, has become the #1 watched weekend wildlife show.
I love it.
And we've had 5 Emmy nominations as well. So as well as a Environmental Media Award nomination. So we're just thrilled how well things are going and happy to be continuing Mutual of Omaha's mission of educating the next generation about the importance of conservation.
Well, congratulations on all your success, and please don't slow down, because you're giving us some great content out there, and I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
There he goes, Peter Gros. That's the guy's got quite a life, doesn't he? Talk about an interesting life. All right, we have people to thank. Thanks, of course, to NBC for getting us Peter. We also need to thank Tony Lasano, the executive producer of the show. Thank you, Tony, from Opie Productions. Also, thanks to Ed Silla with the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It just moved to a better place, radiomisfits.com. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at radiomisfits.com. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?